Hello there, lovely folks of YouTube. Ren here. This is a video that has been a very long time in the making. What can I say? It just, I got sidetracked. But many people have asked me about making a video about this particular plant. This is going to look a little bit different because the primary place that this plant grows in my garden is actually in the front yard, not far from the street. I have a lot of trepidation about showing y'all the front of my house because I know that those are images that are also visible on like Google Street View, and I know that there's always that one person out there with a lot more time on their hands to be a weirdo than I would like, so I don't like to show the front of my house. So when we talk about the plant, when we go, I will show you basically close-ups of the plant. Not myself like I usually do. This is also the same plant that I'm talking about. This is just a little baby that I planted this spring though. This is lavender. Yay! Lavender. We're finally talking about lavender. So there are several species that comprise what we call lavender. The most common one is the Lavandula angustifolia, which is the English lavender. That also in the past has been known as Lavandula officinalis or Lavandula vera, or true lavender. But other lavender species would be Lavandula dentata, which is the fringed lavender, Lavandula stoicus, which is the Spanish lavender, but sometimes also called the French lavender. There's very confusing nomenclature when it comes to lavender. Lavandula latifolia, which was formerly known as Lavandula spica, which is the spiked or sometimes called Portuguese lavender. Lavandula X intermedia, which is a hybrid between angustifolia and latifolia. That's also sometimes called lavandin or French lavender. Again, very confusing with the common names. It's a lot easier to go by the actual species name when it comes to lavender because that's the only way to be 100% sure what type of lavender you're getting. Now, the difference between a lot of these different species of lavender is in the ratio of the terpenes and compounds that are found in the oils. So, Lavandula angustifolia, the English lavender, is considered to be the best quality. My notes are trying to blow away here. Because it has the highest amount of linalool and linolene acetate, which are the lavender fragrance that we associate with lavender, and the lowest amount of camphorous compounds, which are like the really strong sort of mentholy kind of compounds that you sometimes find in lavender. The higher the camphor levels, the less it is able to be used for like a culinary purpose because it just gets too strong and potentially can make people sick if it gets into really high levels. So that's why the English lavender is considered to be like a better quality lavender for that purpose. But regardless of what species of lavender you're growing, all lavender seems to like the same type of climate: hot, dry, full sun. So they are a native plant to the coastal regions of the Mediterranean primarily, and they share a lot of the other, a lot of the growing preferences to other plants in that area, such as like rosemary and the like. They want a very hot, sunny spot with very well draining soil, preferably on the alkaline side. But I do have acid soil. It seems to do okay. It's fine. Zones 5 to 9 is the growing zones for this plant. Let me put it this way. Their ability to overwinter, in my experience, is more related to how wet the winters are, as long as you're within that zone. So like, even here, I'm in zone 7, which is right smack in the middle there. I have a hard time getting lavender to overwinter unless I have it in a place that is crazy well draining soil, which is why most of my lavender grows in the front. In the front, there's a lot of gravel in the soil from old gravel driveway that used to be there before my paved driveway. and the lavender loves that spot. Right next to the hot paved driveway with a lot of gravel in the soil, it like thrives there like crazy. This one is in a pot to keep its roots dry over winter. I've had a lavender in this pot previously, but it just didn't quite make it through the winter. It happens sometimes. Lavender also is not crazy about the humidity, which is another thing that it really struggles against in the area that I live in. But you do what you got to do, right? So, generally, the size of the plant can vary depending on which cultivar and which species you're looking at, but most generally you're looking at about 2 to 3 feet in height and 2 to 3 feet in spread for the most common size for these plants. Some will be grown smaller, a few, like I think the Grosso grows a little bit bigger, hence the name. Grosso means large, you know, but generally you're looking at that size. They generally start blooming in early midsummer and will continually bloom throughout all the hot parts of the year as long as you keep trimming the flowers back, which you want to do anyway because that's how you harvest the plant. You typically harvest just as the first buds on the racemes start to open. So like the first few flower buds will start to open with flowers. That's when you harvest it because you want the majority of unopened buds. They have the highest amount of the essential oils in them. On that note of essential oils, fertilizing this plant actually decreases the essential oil content of the flowers, so it's typically not recommended. As long as you have good soil for it to grow in, just let it do its own thing. Do not fertilize it. You don't need to. These buds are, of course, typically used in potpourri and cooking. The essential oil is used in perfumes, soaps, all kinds of stuff, aromatherapy. You know, who hasn't used lavender at some way, shape, or form in their life? Very few people at this point. As far as propagating this plant, typically it would be propagated from cuttings. You can do either the new growth softwood cuttings or the hardwood cuttings, either one you can propagate this plant from. It is possible to grow the plant from seed, but it's kind of unreliable as to what you're going to get when you grow it from seed because of the way that it will interbreed, even within species, as seen by the hybrid between the intermedia and the angustifolia. So on that note, why don't we now move to my front yard and I'll show you what I mean when I talk about the variability that you can get from growing from seed, because 2 of my plants have actually been grown from seed. So I will show you those. Okay, so here we are at the front of the house. This is actually like a little strip of land that's between my driveway and my neighbor's driveway. So I have a few lavender plants tucked in here. So this plant right here, this is a really cute little one. You can see it's kind of on the short side, and the flowers are like this really, really dark purple, flowers and buds, I should say. This one actually, like I should have harvested this one a while ago, but I'm kind of like, when it comes to harvesting sometimes. I may harvest this today. I'm not going to harvest all of it. I'm going to leave some of it. I actually do want to get some seed from this one because it's such a cute, short, and like very, very purple lavender that I love it so much. I want to grow hopefully more that looks like it. And then there's another one right behind it that you can see is more of like that pale bluish gray color, and it's like a good foot taller than the other one. These 2 were both planted at the same time, grown from seed from the same seed packet. So, yeah, and I got 2 very different looking lavender plants. So it's this kind of is my biggest lavender. When it goes to what you're going to get from lavender. Big boy is also super popular. I'm going to move over to my big boy plant. Able to see my biggest one right now, but there's at least a dozen different one that needs harvesting soon right now. Yeah, we will talk more about lavender, its history and magical uses when we go look at that plant. They can get pretty sizable when they're in a place that they really like. Lavender is probably one of the oldest plants in human cultivation. We don't know how long exactly humans have been using lavender, but we have documentation going at least to 2500 BC. It has been found in the tomb of the Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun. There was a perfume factory in Cyprus that was dating to about 2000 BC that was uncovered not too long ago. Amy Blackthorne wrote about this one, that yeah, lavender was used. They had a process for getting the essential oils for perfumes back in that time. Cleopatra was famous for using lavender in her perfume. The name of our plant, lavender, actually comes from the Latin lavare, which means to wash. They used it primarily in the bathhouses in ancient Rome. This is a plant that King Solomon was said to use to asperge the temple in the Bible. It's also possible that some of the references in the Bible to nard may have been this plant, because one of the names for this plant in that era was false nard. The true nard is a plant that grows in like India. So this was a string herb in the Middle Ages. And this is said to be the herb that was traditionally burned in the ritual fires at Midsummer as well. So it does have that association with Litha and Midsummer, which is one of the reasons why I want to make this video now. So its magical associations are with the element of air and the planet Mercury. This is like the prototypical mercurial plant. It has that really strong like fragrance that is so typical of Mercury plants, has the really fine leaves of a Mercury plant. That grayish green down on it is also typical of Mercury associations with plants. This is a plant that I use primarily for cleansing. Like, it's right in the name, to wash. So this is an excellent plant for spiritual cleansing. Whether you use the stalks to asperge, whether you use the buds in incense, essential oils in a ritual bath, or even just like put it into a bottle with alcohol and water and use it to spritz the room. For those of you who can't do smoke or anything of that sort, like, those are all excellent ways to clean your energy, your energetic space, whether it be on your body or in your home. This plant also has some protective properties along with its purification properties. That little bee there. So not only will this plant help to kind of drive out any of the bad gluck, but also just kind of like help protect the space and prevent that grossness from entering. Lavender also typically has love associations, but this is not like a lusty plant. This is more of like the intellectual love. You know, not carnal, but just sort of like that love and devotion kind of love. In fact, in the Victorian flower language, lavender was used to represent devotion and loyalty. So, in that note, it could be a good plant to use in like flower crowns or bouquets for a wedding or hand fasting. As well as on the ritual altar for a hand fasting. So that's another possible use for it. And then, of course, its most common use these days is for its calming and sleep enhancing properties. So this would be a good thing to add to a sleep pillow if you wanted to make a sleep pillow. I actually made a sleep pillow for a friend of mine when she was in the hospital, and it was lavender and rose petals, and it was like 4 years ago that I made it, and she's like, I still have it and it still smells amazing. So it's also a good herb to aim in to aid with calm or focus. So it's excellent herb to use for studying. My typical blend that I used when I was studying is I made a blend of the essential oil of lavender and rosemary and a carrier oil. The lavender is for calm and focus, and the rosemary is for memory. So I would put it on, just sort of like anoint my wrists and temples when I studied, and then I did it again right before I took a test, and I mean, I think it helped. So, you know, it's worth a shot. Anyway, what a fun little plant. Yeah, there's so many bees. They love this thing. So, and all I'm smelling this whole time is lavender. It's just so calming. So, anyway, if you have the space for this, I highly recommend it. Even if you don't, like, even if you're outside of the growing zone, you can throw it in a pot and bring it inside over winter. You may or may not have some success. It may not last more than a few years. Typically when they grow lavender commercially, they only they will actually cull any plants that are greater than 5 years old because the production greatly declines and they tend to die back a lot after that point. So, you know, everybody has to replace their lavender at some point. Don't feel like you're a failure if you end up having to replace your lavender, because it happens. You know, you saw my pot back there with the little teeny tiny baby lavender that I had to replace. So, but yeah, if you can grow it, it's one of the best plants to grow. It's just so nice to have. So nice to have. Anyway, that is all I'm gonna have for you today. So I hope this video finds you well, and I will see you again soon. Different looking lavender plants, so it's kind of a gamble when it goes to what you're gonna get from lavender. So I'm gonna move over to my big boy plant. This is my biggest one and my favorite one. Another one that needs harvesting soon, but yeah, we will talk more about lavender, its history and magical uses when we go look at that plant.